Hi guys, this is Pete. How are you guys going today? Well gang, it's official. Hackers have officially released ransomware that is designed to attack the Mac OS. Okay, now this has been a long time coming, and the number one reason that most people buy Macs is because they are of the belief that they can't be infected by viruses such as ransomware and such things, and this has certainly been the case up until recently. For those of you that don't know, ransomware is a piece of software that locks your computer and then demands a ransom for you that you have to pay, either using Bitcoin or sending the money via Western Union to unlock your computer. Now, ransomware is particularly malicious because if you don't pay the ransom, then you have zero chance of ever getting your files recovered unless you have a current backup. Now, this particular piece of malicious ransomware has been infecting a site called BitTorrent, which is one of the free movie download sites, and it's very interesting in the way it's written, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. But firstly, let me say, if you're using torrent sites to download free movies, software, games and things like that, you're an idiot. And the reason you're an idiot is firstly it's illegal, and secondly this is the price that you pay for all those free movies, hey? Seriously. And it's becoming more and more prevalent. Now, the really interesting thing about this particular piece of ransomware is that it's actually hidden in the README files. Now, I don't know, for you guys that have ever downloaded a free movie before, you'll see there's the movie file and then there's a README file. And by default, when you click on download, the torrent program will download both the movie file, which is an MPEG-4 or an AVI file, and it'll also download a little text document called the README file. Now, this is the first time, to my knowledge, that a virus or a threat has ever been hidden in a text document, and this is pretty tricky stuff, let me tell you. Now, the users that have downloaded the infected program will have their computers locked up in 3 days and receive a demand for payment. Now, the other interesting thing about this particular malicious piece of software is normally these crime syndicates that write these malicious codes usually demand around about $300 or $400 US. In this case, they're demanding $1,500 US to unlock your computer, which is typical of anything designed for a Mac, because even legitimate stuff for a Mac always costs 3 times as much as stuff for a Windows-based operating system. Now, security experts have recommended that computer users never pay the ransom because it encourages further payment, and there is never a guarantee that hackers will unlock the infected computer. We found in about 50% of cases they actually do unlock your computer, and about 50% of cases they don't. Now, I've spoken about ransomware before, and normally what happens is that the servers that are hosting the ransomware are generally located and shut down within 3 or 4 days, which means if you haven't paid the ransom, there's zero chance of you getting your files back anyway. Alright, so the main thing I'm saying here is backup, backup, backup. And having a Mac nowadays is not as safe as it used to be. Alright, so yeah, so the hackers hid the malicious code in the program's README file. That's just absolutely amazing. So Apple are onto this particular infection and have released an update that will immunise your machine against catching this particular infection, but it's just going to snowball from here, just like it did back in the mid to late 90s when viruses started for Windows-based machines. So there you go, gang. If you're thinking about buying an Apple Mac because you thought you were safe from viruses, or if you bought an Apple Mac because you thought you were safe from viruses, then that is certainly not the case anymore. Now, don't get me wrong, I quite like the Apple product. I'm not a big fan of the company. I do believe that the Apple company actually hold their customers to ransom when it comes to the price of their components and the price of their software, but the product is by and large fairly good. Alright, so the lesson to be learned here is don't go to torrent sites to download movies, games, things like that. Just don't do it, gang. It's not worth it. Okay? Like I said, it is illegal, and there is always a price to pay. Nothing in this world is free. Alright? Now, if you have a Windows-based machine, the most common way to catch one of these ransomware viruses is via an infected email, and it's usually an official-looking email that comes from one of the banks, the major banks, or from the post office. So if you get an email from one of these institutions, always have a look at the properties of the email and see where it came from. Now, what I'm talking about here is you can look at the properties of the email and have a look at the address that it came from. Now, I'm just going to pick on the Commonwealth Bank here in Australia because it is the most common banking website and the most common one the crime syndicates use to send out these infections. And it looks like an official Commonwealth Bank page that's sending you an email saying that you need to update something. Click here. And the reason they use the Commonwealth Bank is that most people in Australia, or a large majority of people in Australia, have a Commonwealth Bank account. But if you have a look at the address, it doesn't say www.commonwealthbank.com.au. It says www.commonwealthbank.something xyz.com, or usually it's .cn, which is China, or something like that. So just have a look at the address, and if it's not the official address from the website, then you know that there's something dodgy about the message. Also, I'll tell you right now, major institutions will not send you an email telling you to update your details. Click here and then ask you for your usernames, passwords, things like that. Alright gang, there you go. Very interesting. Now, this was just released today. This latest piece of ransomware designed to infect the Apple OS was only discovered on the weekend. So there you go. Pretty interesting stuff. Righto, I've got to go and answer that phone. This is Pete from Precision. Love you guys. See you next time.